Hello everyone. Welcome back to my CBS GH spoiler channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. It really helps the channel. Now let's get into it, because today's story might be the biggest bombshell Port Charles has seen in years, the truth beneath the grief. In the calm aftermath of what everyone in Port Charles believed was the end, the truth was buried beneath layers of medical records, grief, and the slow, ordinary march of daily life. Sam McCALL hadn't died in that hospital bed. Cyrus Renault's poison nearly killed her. But something intervened between the frantic attempts at resuscitation and the moment Lucas Jones regretfully pronounced her dead. A concealed hand. A secret Cassadine contingency. Or maybe just the stubborn will of a woman who had already survived too many endings to let this be the one that stuck. She was moved in the dead of night, declared missing, placed in a remote recovery facility, far from anyone who might recognize her face. Months became more than a year. Scout grew taller, her features settling into a mix of Sam's tenacity and Drew's stubborn jawline. Danny grappled with the empty space where his mother used to be. Alexis carried the weight of losing another daughter. And Jason mourned the only way he knew how, staying close to the kids, and watching Drew with a suspicion that never quite faded. Drew, meanwhile, tightened his grip on Scout. He spoke constantly of stability, of protecting her from the chaos of Port Charles, of building a future free from the ghosts of the past. But the harder he pushed for control, the more the people who loved Sam began to notice the cracks. Sam watches from the shadows. For a long time, Sam watched from a distance. Recovery had been slow and brutal. Her heart had been damaged, her strength stripped down to nothing. And the psychological toll of knowing her children believed she was dead had nearly finished what the poison started. She learned about Drew's decisions in careful, filtered pieces, restraining orders that kept Danny at arm's length, attempts to limit Alexis's access, talk of transferring Scout somewhere new, always framed, of course, as being for the child's own good. She saw photographs of Scout at school events, looking smaller in the places where her mother should have been standing. She read through records of furious exchanges between Jason and Drew, legal skirmishes that turned Sam's final wishes into weapons. The moment she decided to come home wasn't dramatic. It happened on an ordinary morning, right after a physical therapy session, when she glanced at a calendar and realized Scout's birthday was coming. Her daughter would turn a year older, having spent that entire year believing she had none of her mother left. Sam packed a single bag. She walked out of the facility without ceremony and returned to the only place she had ever truly belonged. She entered Port Charles under a different name, a quiet, careful reentry that only someone with Cassadine blood and years of survival instinct could pull off. She didn't go straight to the Quartermain mansion. She didn't go to General Hospital. She watched first. She sat in the back corner of a coffee shop near Scout's school and watched her daughter climb out of Drew's car, backpack too big for a small frame. Expression carefully neutral in the way children learn to be when the adults around them are at war. Drew leaned down to say something almost tender to her before straightening up and scanning the street, on alert for threats that weren't there. That night, Sam stood across from the Quartermain gates, the cold iron bars pressed against her palms. Lights glowed in the windows. She imagined Scout upstairs, maybe already asleep, maybe still lying awake listening to the murmur of adults arguing below. She imagined Drew pacing, rehearsing his justifications, utterly convinced he was the only one who could keep his daughter safe. The thought settled in her chest like a stone. The reunion at the dock. Sam made her first move carefully. A message passed to Alexis through a channel that couldn't be traced. Just one line. I never left. Meet me where we used to talk, back when the world made sense. Alexis arrived at the old dock at nightfall, pale and shaking. When Sam stepped out of the shadows, Alexis let out a sound that was half sob, half prayer. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. They just held each other. I couldn't tell you, Sam finally admitted. Not until I was strong enough to actually do something about what I was hearing. Alexis's eyes went wide. Scout needs you. Danny needs you. Sam nodded. That man is turning everything into a fortress and calling it love. I understand it. I'm here for both of them. But right now, especially for Scout, Drew has her locked down tighter than anyone realizes. Over the following days, Sam didn't announce herself to the world. She moved through the city like a rumor, quietly gathering everything she needed. Records of Drew's most extreme decisions, documentation of the legal maneuvers that had cut Scout off from her half-brother and grandmother, and testimony from teachers who'd noticed the little girl growing quieter, more withdrawn. She met with Jason in secret. The conversation was blunt and painful. He believed she was gone. The grief had been real. Seeing her standing in front of him again cracked something open that he'd carefully sealed shut. "You let us bury an empty casket," he said quietly. "I had to survive first," Sam answered. "And then I had to see what he was doing to our daughter." Jason's jaw tightened at the word hour. Biologically, Scout was Drew's, but years of blended family, shared responsibility, and Sam's insistence on keeping every child connected had blurred those lines long ago. Sam laid out her plan. No lawyers, no cameras, no storming the mansion. She'd remove Scout quietly if she had to. But what she really wanted was to corner Drew somewhere he could no longer hide behind the language of protection. The confrontation. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Drew came home early and found Sam standing in the mansion's living room, like she had never left. Scout was still at school. The house was quiet, save for the faint sound of staff moving somewhere in the background. Drew froze in the doorway. The color drained from his face until he looked, for a moment, like a man waking up without a past all over again. "You're dead," he said. "I was supposed to be." Sam's voice didn't waver. "Cyrus nearly finished the job. I spent months learning how to walk again, how to breathe without pain, how to live with the fact that my children thought I was gone." Drew recovered faster than she expected. The politician's mask slid back into place, the same composure that had served him so well in Washington and in courtrooms. "You abandoned her," he said. "You let us mourn. You let her cry herself to sleep for months. And now you just walk back in and think you have the right." "I have every right." Sam stepped closer. "I'm her mother. I never stopped being her mother. That 'will you love to wave around' was written back when I thought Jason was gone, and I still believed you were a man who'd put her first. You're not that man anymore, Drew. You've turned her into leverage, into proof that you can still control something in a life that keeps slipping away from you. I won't let you raise her in a prison built out of your own fear and ambition." He laughed, sharp and humorless. "You think you can just take her? The courts will tear you apart. You fake your death. You disappeared. That's not exactly the picture of stability a judge wants to see." "Then let them look," Sam said. "Let them see the restraining orders. Let them see how you kept Danny away from his own sister. Let them read the teacher's notes about a little girl who's stopped asking questions because she's afraid the answers will upset someone. I have all of it. And I have Alexis. And I have Jason." For just a second, Drew's composure cracked. "She's my daughter." "She's ours," Sam corrected. "And right now, she needs her mother more than she needs a father who confuses isolation with safety." They stood there in silence, rain hammering the windows. Somewhere in the house, a clock struck the hour. Drew's hands flexed at his sides. Sam didn't move an inch. She had faced down men far more dangerous than this. Men with guns. Men with knives. Men whose power left bodies behind. Drew's power was quieter, wrapped in legal language and public image, but after everything she'd seen in Port Charles, Sam knew silent power could be every bit as destructive. When Scout came through the front door later that afternoon, shaking rain off her coat and calling for her father, the sound of her voice hit Sam harder than anything she'd endured during her entire recovery. Scout stopped dead as she rounded the corner into the living room. For a long moment she just stared, like her mind was struggling to reconcile the woman standing there with a year's worth of stories, photographs, and empty space. Sam knelt down. She didn't rush forward. She waited. Scout's bottom lip trembled. "Mommy." The word was small and uncertain, and it carried every single night Scout had spent wishing it were true. Sam opened her arms. Scout ran into them with the force of a child who had spent a year carefully holding herself together. Sam wrapped her up, breathing in the scent of rain and school, and that particular sweetness that still clung to her little girl, and felt the last of the walls she'd built for survival finally crumble. Drew stood frozen in place. He didn't step in. Whatever calculations were running behind his eyes, he kept them to himself for now. Sam rose slowly, Scout still clinging to her, and met his gaze over the top of her daughter's head. "I'm taking her," she said quietly. "Not forever. I'm not saying you'll never see her again. But I'm taking her out of this house tonight. We'll work out the rest later. With lawyers, with judges, whatever it takes." Drew's voice came out rough. "She needs to know her mother is alive, that she's not as alone as you've made her feel. That's the part you don't get to erase. You can't just—" "I can," Sam said. "And I am." She packed a small bag with Scout's help, the girl bouncing between joy and confusion, firing off questions faster than Sam could gently answer them. They walked out the front door together, leaving Drew standing alone in the living room, rain still falling outside. The mansion suddenly far too big and far too quiet. Alexis was waiting a few blocks away. Jason would see them soon after. Legal battles were coming. So were the headlines, the public fallout, and all the chaos that comes with anyone returning from the dead in Port Charles. But for that first stretch of road, with Scout's hand in hers and the city lights blurring through the wet windshield, Sam let herself just be there again. The news spread through Port Charles the way big news always does, first as whispers, then as confirmation, then as the kind of collective shockwave this town seems built for. Sam McCALL was alive, and she'd come back for her daughter. Drew's carefully built image as the devoted single father took hit after hit as details of his isolation tactics and legal maneuvering came to light. Alexis stood firmly behind her surviving daughter. Jason made it clear publicly that he'd support whatever arrangement kept Scout safe and connected to the people who loved her. Danny's reconnection with his mother was quieter, but no less powerful, a piece of his foundation rebuilt. Drew fought back, of course. He filed papers, gave interviews focused entirely on Scout's emotional stability, painted Sam's disappearance as abandonment rather than survival. But the evidence Sam had gathered, combined with first-hand accounts of Scout, growing quieter and more withdrawn under his care, started shifting the ground beneath him. Judges took notice. Social workers took notice. The whole city was watching. Sam never pretended the transition would be easy. Scout had nightmares. She asked the same questions again and again, waiting for the answers to finally sink in. She'd cling to Sam, then pull away, then cling all over again. Sam stayed steady through all of it. She hadn't come back from the edge of death for revenge, or to prove Drew wrong. She'd come back for the chance to raise her daughter without a false ending hanging over both their heads. "Are you actually staying?" Weeks later, Sam sat on the edge of Scout's bed in the temporary home Alexis had set up for them. Scout was half asleep, one small hand still looped loosely around Sam's sleeve, as if she were afraid her mother might vanish the second the connection broke. "Are you actually staying?" Scout asked, the question barely a whisper in the dark. "I'm staying," Sam said. "I needed time away to get strong enough to come back for good, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving you again." Scout's eyes drifted shut. "Daddy was really sad, and really mad. He said you were gone for good." "I know." Sam brushed the hair back from her daughter's forehead. "People make choices when they're scared. Sometimes those choices hurt the very people they're trying to protect. We're going to figure out something better. You'll still see him, but you'll also see Danny and Grandma and everyone else who loves you. And you'll have me." Outside, Port Charles kept moving through its usual rhythm of secrets, alliances, and sudden reversals. But inside that room, a mother who had been written out of her own story was quietly stepping back into it, not with a grand announcement or a public spectacle, but through the simple, steady presence her daughter had needed all along. The legal battles weren't over. The emotional healing would take years. Drew still had to reckon with the man he'd let himself become while Sam was gone. But the core truth stood, undeniable. Sam McCALL was alive, and she had come to pull her daughter out of the isolation that had built up around her, and back into a life where love didn't mean control. What this could mean, the theory breakdown. So let's talk about what this could actually mean for General Hospital going forward, because there's a lot to unpack here. Why did Sam stay away so long? That's the real question driving this whole story. Maybe Sam was being hunted by dangerous enemies. Maybe she believed staying hidden was the only way to keep Scout safe. Maybe surfacing too soon would have put everyone she loved in far greater danger. Whatever the reason, Her return was never going to be simple, and that mystery could become the true engine of this storyline. Drew's world turned upside down. Picture Drew, fully convinced Sam is gone forever, suddenly face to face with her again. Shock, anger, relief, confusion, all at once. After everything he's built his new life around, her return would be almost impossible for him to process cleanly. The custody war. This isn't just a reunion story. It's a full-blown custody battle waiting to happen. Sam would argue she never stopped loving Scout, that every day apart was its own kind of agony, and that she has evidence she was protecting her daughter from something far worse than anyone realizes. Drew, meanwhile, sees himself as the parent who stayed, the one who showed up for every birthday, every school event, every hard night. He's not going to accept that Sam can simply reappear and expect everything to snap back to normal. Neither side is entirely wrong here, which is exactly what makes this so combustible. Scout caught in the middle. This might be the most emotional thread of all. Scout's reaction to learning her mother is alive could swing from pure joy to genuine confusion and hurt. Why did she leave? Why didn't she come back sooner? Did she even think about Scout? Sam is going to have to earn her daughter's trust back, not assume it's automatically hers. And Drew's protective instincts, already sky-high, could kick into overdrive at the thought of another disappearance, wrecking his daughter emotionally. A deeper mystery underneath it all. Here's where it could get really interesting. If Sam's survival was a closely guarded secret, someone out there had to know the truth. Was she running from something dangerous? Investigating a criminal organization? Did someone deliberately let the world believe she was dead? If Sam comes back carrying information about a bigger threat, she might become a target for people who assumed she was permanently out of the picture, which could explain the timing of her return. The people around Drew. If Drew has built new relationships and a new life since Sam's death, her sudden reappearance could upend all of it. Some people close to him might not trust Sam's motives at all, assuming she just wants control back. Others might understand that a mother who feels she's lost irreplaceable time with her child is going to fight to make up for it. Unresolved feelings. Even if the romance between Sam and Drew is long over, their shared history isn't going anywhere. There could be moments where Drew looks at her and remembers the life they once pictured together, and Sam might feel it too. But neither of them can afford to let old feelings derail what's actually best for Scout. A twist from Sam's missing years. General Hospital rarely lets a family reunion stay peaceful for long. A secret from the time Sam was gone could resurface. Maybe she wasn't alone during those months. Maybe she made a deal with someone to keep Scout safe, and that deal is now coming back to collect. If that happens, Sam's homecoming stops being just a joyful reunion and starts looking like a warning sign. Could Scout be in danger? If the people responsible for Sam's disappearance realize she's alive and back in Port Charles, Scout could become a target simply by association. That would force Drew into an impossible question. Is keeping Scout away from Sam actually protecting her, or putting her in more danger than ever? Scout as the peacemaker. In true soap opera fashion, Scout herself might end up being the one who brings her parents back together, telling them she doesn't want to choose between them, and forcing both Sam and Drew to admit their fight is hurting the very person they're both trying to protect. From there, the story could shift from a custody war to a hard, messy lesson in co-parenting. Not a villain, not a saint. Here's what makes this potential storyline work. Drew doesn't have to be the villain. His overprotectiveness comes from a real place, love tangled up with fear. And Sam doesn't have to be painted as flawless either. However justified her reasons, her absence caused real pain that can't just be explained away. If Sam eventually reveals the full truth about why she disappeared, Drew might come to understand her choices. But understanding doesn't erase years of hurt overnight. Forgiveness, for both of them, and for Scout, is going to take time. The most powerful moment in all of this might be a simple one. Sam telling Drew she's not trying to erase him from Scout's life. She just wants her role as Scout's mother back. And Drew admitting he never wanted to replace her. He just wanted to make sure their daughter was safe and loved. That single conversation could be the thing that finally starts closing the door on years of bitterness. But there could be one more twist waiting. What if Sam discovers someone has been quietly orchestrating all of this from behind the scenes? Her disappearance, the threats to Scout, even Drew's struggles. all connected to something much bigger than a custody dispute. If that's the case, Sam's return wouldn't just reopen old wounds. It could set off an entirely new mystery, one that pulls Port Charles back into the kind of danger this town can never seem to escape for long. And if Sam really has survived everything thrown at her so far, she might be exactly the person capable of exposing the truth, with Drew, of all people, forced to set his anger aside and work alongside her to do it. For Scout, that would mean something rare on this show. Both her parents finally fighting for her, instead of against each other. And for Sam, it would mean finally proving that she never really abandoned the people she loved. She was protecting them the whole time. Closing. The idea of Sam McCALL returning from the dead is bigger than just a shocking twist. It could reshape Scout's entire future, challenge everything Drew believes about his role as a father, tear open old wounds between the two of them, and finally reveal secrets that have stayed buried for far too long. If these spoilers hold up, we could be looking at an emotional reunion that spirals straight into one of the most heated custody battles Port Charles has ever seen. Sam is determined to reclaim the time she lost with her daughter. Drew isn't going anywhere without a fight. But the real question isn't just whether Sam gets Scout back. It's whether Sam, Drew, and Scout can rebuild something resembling a family after everything that's happened. And if Sam really has been alive this whole time, you can bet there's a reason she stayed hidden for so long. That reason might be the secret that changes everything. That's it for today's video, guys. What do you think? Is Drew the villain here? Or is he just a scared father who made bad choices? Let me know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. And I'll see you in the next one.